once you understand wealth, you understand it's not something that you hoard. It's something that you circulate. All right, so you want to walk around Allentown a little bit? All right, let's do it. I've showed you guys this property a lot, but so see how they look? Good, right? A little bit smaller units, but brand new. If we got more casual stuff, then we would be getting way different like nuggets. Has to be saying some super profound shit. Wow, this is beautiful. I love how they did this. It's like, it's not about the messenger, it's about the message. Like, I don't know. People get caught up on who said what. It's not about who said it, it's about what's being said. Does that make sense? Bruce Lee has this movie, like someone asked Bruce Lee in this movie, they were like, he was like, if I point to the moon, you know, he's like, you better focus on the moon, baby, or you'll miss all that glory. He's like, don't look at my finger. Right? So like when Bruce Lee was showing his students the martial arts, he was like, hey, it's not about me, it's about the martial art. Right? So if I point to the moon, don't look at my finger, look at the moon. So for me, it's like the same thing. It's like, I don't care who's saying what. If I, as a practitioner, hear something that I believe is true, and then I independently like develop my own conclusion about it, then I'm gonna do it. You know, like I've always been a big fan of R&D, but not research and development, but rip off and duplicate. Like I really believe that we are a collection of all of our inspirations. Like I pull from hip hop so much, such a big part of who I am. I pull from, you know, Ye and Nip and Jay and all, you know, Drake, Cole, Kendrick, all these inspirations I pull from, right? I'm just like taking the shit that I learned in hip hop and communicating it and executing in it in a different medium. That's all really I think my life is. Literally, it's a collection of like growing up hip hop culture and expressing it in what I found my lane to be, which has been building businesses and just, you know, being an entrepreneur. And I think that word entrepreneur to me, I think is over time is gonna come to life more and more differently. Like I'm realizing, I don't know, I had an idea of what an entrepreneur was. I got in the game, but like there's just levels to it, you know, there's just levels to it. Like, I don't know. When I'm 60, I don't know what I'm gonna be getting into, but like, I'll just say this game gets better with time. That you should always be monitoring the pulse on. Who are you attracting as business partners? What organizations are you attracting? What people are you attracting as business partners? Don't judge it. It's not about like, oh, that's good or that's bad. It's like, all right, just know that you are attracting exactly what you're ready for at this stage. If you want to attract, you know, bigger partners with more strategy, what have you, then you got to get to the point where you're good enough that they call on you. Until you get so good that, you know, then, you know, until you get so good that you outgrow it and then you become the dominant player. But until you get there, a really good way is elevating your game, attract partnerships from some of the best players that you respect, and build together with them and learn from the best, and then you become the best. At least that's my thesis. So I'm not the best at what I do, not by any means. Whatever. We don't have to get into that. But anyway, all right, that was a good little riff. I think we might be able to get some stuff from that. So guys, super cool thing. So I've had this line on my heart. It's been brewing, right, for weeks now. And that line is, I'm not trying to look hood rich, I'm trying to make the hood rich. That, I feel that from my heart. It came out of me one day. And I haven't shared it though, because I've been incubating it, because to me it really is core. Like that's my core. That's, you know. And so anyway, Mendy came over my house just now. We agreed we were gonna walk around the city and do a little bit of vlogging, and we had this idea. You know, GV has been talking a lot about like, yo, building brand equity, and then, you know, what can you go and do with that brand equity, you know. So I've been thinking a lot about the same thing, and I've been trying to think about how that applies to me and my brand. You know, it's like a little bit, it's not as clear to me at the moment because I don't sell, I don't have like a core product that I'm selling right now, right? Like I run a fund. And by the nature of that, our customers are the entrepreneurs that we invest in, you know, and our investors that we generate returns for. So I don't have like a consumer-facing business, is what I'm saying right now. So we were trying to experiment with like, yo, what would we do? And I was like, yo, I think I would like to make little T-shirts with like, I would like to make swag that has really powerful messaging on it that I believe is core to like what I'm trying to do and why I think you guys even mess with me. So that line came to mind. I was like, yo, all right, bet. I want to do look hood rich with a line through it, and then make the hood rich, right? So I'm like not trying to look hood rich, trying to make the hood rich. And I wanted to test, this is a great example. I wanted to test, okay, how well will this do? Well, you know, the best way to find out is really simple. You know, I just dropped a video, maybe Mendy clip it in here. I just dropped a video about how Twitter is like the most underused tool, right? It's a great listening tool, but it's also a great tool to throw stuff against the wall. If you have ideas for even a business or whatever, tweet it and see if it gets a little bit more likes than usual, a little bit more retweets than usual, engagement, comments. That's how you know you're resonating with the audience. So I'll just tweet stuff all day. Look through my Twitter feed and you'll see I just tweet stuff all day. And if something hits, all right, cool, I'm taking that and I'm dropping it in the feed. So anyway, before we started vlogging today, I told Mandy, I was like, yo, I'm gonna take the screenshot of the tweet, drop it on Instagram, and see what response we get. Ooh! You see, Esco got another lesson for you, lost tape. This is when you know that you just resonated. You know, your audience is letting you know that you just resonated. I'm like, you know, so let's get into it. Like now let's get deeper in my psyche, right? This is the type of shit that I don't get to do often, so I'm glad that we're picking it back up, all right? So I used to worship a certain Queensbridge police murderer till I read the words of I've advanced him. He inserted something in me that made me feel worthier. Now I spent revolution, I'm his hood interpreter. I used to worship a certain Queensbridge police murderer till I read the words of I've advanced him. He inserted something in me that made me feel worthier. Now I spit revolution, I'm his hood interpreter. That was Nas. He said, yo, he used to worship a kingpin. I used to worship a certain Queensbridge police murderer till I read the words of Ivan Van Sertima. By the way, I didn't know who that was. I had to Google it. A very prolific, you know, black historian. Till I read the words of Ivan Van Sertima. He inserted something in me that made me feel worthier. Now I spit revolution. I'm his hood interpreter. Bro. That line meant everything to me. That line, back when I was 17 and I first heard it, put so many things into perspective for me, because I really related with what Nas was saying. He was like, yo, you know, I used to get caught up on all this noise until I found out that that shit was the truth. The way that all that shit gets communicated oftentimes isn't translated to street code to just be regularly understood, right? And through doing a lot of business, I've discovered that some of the most powerful people controlling, you know, like jaw-dropping, you know, amount of the redistribution of wealth. Because once you understand wealth, you understand it's not something that you hoard. It's something that you circulate. Real wealth isn't hoarded. It's impossible. You will not get wealthy. I assure you. I dare you to. You cannot prove me wrong. You will not get wealthy if you hoard. You only get wealthy when you circulate. What do I mean? The wealthy control, you know, amounts of capital and they redirect it. They invest in entrepreneurs that then go on, start businesses and hire people, or like, there's, wealth is about the redistribution of it. And so anyway, the whole point was, I'm in rooms with some of the people that have the largest amount of circulation and impact so many lives as a result. You never hear about these people. You hear about the businesses that they own and the businesses that they own. You never hear about it. And so now that I'm in these rooms, I'm like, yo, my purpose, I know it, is to like Nas said, I'm his hood interpreter. My mission is to take all that stuff and spew it, share it in little nuggets, share it how it makes sense to me. I'm not trying to come up with some sound bites for the gram. Like, what I'm actually doing when I do this is, like, I'm actually processing real time what I'm living through. That's it. Like, what I'm actually doing when I do all this vlog stuff is processing real time what I'm living through. And that, to me, that's why, in fact, you know what? I came into this game and I started because I saw, what could happen as a result of doing this really well. And now at this point, this is like meditation. It's reflective to me. It helps me grow. It helps me process my thinking. It helps me look back 5 years from now and be able to see how I was thinking, be able to see how I was communicating. And I realized that this is going to be an indispensable part of business in the future, building in the future. Fuck business. Like, business is so narrow. I had lunch with a friend and I told him, I was like, yo, it sounds like you don't even really think about business anymore. He's like, dude, business is too narrow. He's one of the brightest minds that I know. Errol King. Shout out to Errol. There's something bigger than business here. Like, the whole reason you guys even, like, the whole reason we connect, you and I connect, is because we're about the same thing, right? Because you're gonna reach and attract who you're meant to reach and attract based on what you put out. I'll share something that, for instance, I've learned along the way, like credit as an example. Built it up once way later when I understood how to do all this shit, and then used the fact that I had good credit to acquire a few assets, and then I levered up, so I acquire more debt, and so I gotta spend some time now restabilizing, bringing down my utilization and bringing up my credit worthiness, and then I'll go at it again. But the difference is, now I understand how that shit works. Like, I never even had health insurance growing up. The people that I grew up with, bro, I want to make it a little bit easier for them. I think about my aunt, who's 72, still working, bro. And by the way, these people, my aunt's not unhappy by any means. She's like, muchacho, olvídate de eso. She don't care. She's like, all right, boy. She's like, if you're gonna let all these things, ruin you. She's like, at this point, all you could do is just, work, and then when you get out, have a drink, dance, have a good time. So, and my mom is happy. So it's like kind of ironic, because I want them to break out of this so bad, and it's like, maybe they'll be unhappy or not. Yeah, who knows? I do know that these folks are happy. Some of these folks are happy, but some of these folks aren't, man. I'm just fortunate that I come from una familia que son alegres. My family is, they're just they're joyful, But I want to make it better for them, man. My mom's never been in Europe, and I mention that because I've only been in Europe once, and it was briefly. And I'm not even making Europe to be the dream destination, but that, like, my mom grew up hearing stories about that shit. So whenever she's frustrated, she's like, screw it, I'm going to Europe. Or she'll be like, oh, let's go to Europe. Like, that's her, dream world. I'm not sure what she's envisioning in her head. Maybe when I do that, we'll actually be able to harken back to this vlog. Wow. I never tried to do that. But, like, when I let my mind wander, I realize all the shit that I think about. It's like, if you ever let your mind wander, whatever it is that you drift to is a pretty good indication of, like, what's sitting right under your conscious mind. Where'd I go?